Matthew 9:23. And when Jesus came into the ruler's house and saw the minstrels and the people making a noise, he said to them, "Give place." Okay, so it just begins, comes into the house and sees everyone. Mark gives more information. And he allowed no man to follow him save Peter and James and John, the brother of James. And he comes to the house of the ruler of the synagogue and sees the tumult and them that wept and wailed greatly. And when he was come in, he said to them, "Why make you this ado?" So Mark just goes right into, he doesn't allow anyone except those three to come into the house with him. He sees everyone, and everyone's weeping and wailing. So pretty much the same, but it mentions those three, Peter, James, and John, the brother James, are coming into the house with him. The wording is kind of weird. It starts out by saying, "And he allowed no man to follow him." But what it means is into the house, because all of his disciples have followed him all the way to that point. It's just into the house that only those three come in with him. Luke explains it a bit better. And when he came into the house, he permitted no man to go in save Peter, James, and John, and the father and mother of the maiden. So those three of his disciples, and of course the father and mother, come in with him. And all wept and bewailed her. But he said, "Weep not, she's not dead." So how to explain that he's going in with only three? Matthew doesn't have those three explained. It just says, when Jesus came into the ruler's house, already in, and saw the minstrels and the people making noise. So when Jesus came into the ruler's house. I really want to explain that three followed him in. Mark has that word. He allowed no man to follow him save, which means except, Peter, James, and John, the brother James. But I want to say that they're at the house. And he allowed no one to follow him into the house, except those three, and the father and mother. But the next verse after that, and he comes to the house of the ruler's synagogue, and sees the tumult, and them that wept and wailed greatly. I don't know, maybe this means that whatever distance away they're at, when they get the message, that's where Jesus stops all the disciples. And for the rest of the trip, it's only Peter, James, and John. Because that's 37. He allowed no man to follow him, save those three. And 38, he comes to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, and sees the tumult, and them that wept and wailed greatly. But see, this might mean he got to the house, they're still outside. Then he allowed only Peter, James, and John to follow him into, even though it says come to the house, maybe that means into the house. Luke, and when he came into the house, he permitted no man to go in, save Peter, James, and John. So there, it seems like he's saying they all showed up at the house, but stayed outside, and only those three and the mother and father went in. I don't know how to fix this with Mark, where it says he allowed no man to follow him, and he comes to the house after that. When he came into the house, he permitted no man to go in. They're already in. This is Luke. When he came into the house, he permitted no man to... It might make sense to read it like this. When he came into the house, he permitted no man to, back to Mark, follow him. That would fit. When he came into the house, he permitted no man to follow him in. But then Mark continues, and he comes into the house. Not even that, he comes to the house. I'm thinking of putting that first sentence from 38 before 37 in Mark 5. And he comes to the house of the ruler of the synagogue. And then, going over to Luke, and when he came into the house. Now, what does Matthew say? And when Jesus came into the ruler's house. And he comes to the house of the ruler of the synagogue. And when, can't say came twice. Jesus came into the ruler's house. Look at that. Mark is so annoying. It has it twice. 38, and he comes into the house. 39, and when he was come in, he said to them, why make you this to do? Oh my goodness. I remember there's the house and then there's the inner room. So Matthew came into the ruler's house, give place. When the people were put forth, he went in to the room, took her by the hand. But there's no room explained, so I just have to have in twice. When he was come in, he said to them, he allows them to scorn, put them out. He takes the father and the mother and the damsel, and then they're with him, and enters in where the damsel was lying. Okay, so that's going to have to be the only explanation, that they go into the room and enters in where the damsel was lying. Matthew, when Jesus came. I think I'm going to put all of the words that say he came into the house all together at once. Including Mark 5:38. And then I'll put from Mark and Luke that only Peter, James, and John did he allow to come with him, even though that is the verse before in 37. It'll be the order from Luke, where it says, when he came into the house, he permitted no man to go in. So it'll be that order, just with the words added from Mark. So I'll start with, and he comes to the house of the ruler of the synagogue. And when Jesus came into the ruler's house. You know what? I'm going to strategically put just the word into. No, because I already have that phrase in 39 of Mark 5. When he was come into. So I have to put, and he comes to the house of the ruler of the synagogue. And he allowed no man to follow him. I could say in from 39. He allowed no man to follow him in, save Peter, James, and John, the brother James. And then the rest of verse 39, and when he was come into, because 38 says he comes to the house, allowed no man to follow him. And when he was come into, no, to the house. No, I'm just going to say he comes to the house once, and he allowed no man to follow him, save Peter, James, and John. And when he was come in, yeah, that's how it's going to go. I'll just have to start with that. And when Jesus came, I'm not going to say into the ruler's house. I'm going to say to because in is later in Mark. So I'll use to the house from Mark. Luke, and when he came into the house. So I'm not going to use into yet. I'll save that for after he explains who is coming in with him, according to the order in Mark. He arrives at the house, and then he goes in. There is a break. It's 38, he arrives to the house. 39, when he was come in. So, and when he comes to the house. And when Jesus came to the house. So, and from all three, when Jesus came next. Luke, and when he came. So I'm going to use Jesus because that name is given in Matthew, not in Luke. To the house first. So, and from all three. I don't mean to stretch this out, but I got to make it fit. I'm not just going to put these words on the page and expect you to accept it. It's got to work. And from all three. When, from Luke, and he comes. Nope. And when. So yeah, when is Matthew and Luke. When Jesus is named only in Matthew in this verse. And when Jesus came into, I'm not going to say into the house, I'm just going to say to from Mark. So that's 38. When he was come in. Should I say from 38, he comes to the house? And then later on, when he was come in? Mark says comes both times. Comes to the house, comes in. Matthew has came, when Jesus came to the ruler's house. Since I'm going to separate these, he arrived at the house and then he went in, which would be a better phrase? He came to the house, and when he comes in, or he comes to the house, and when he came in. Does it matter? Will that even help at all? Luke has when he came into the house, he made no man to go in, save Peter, James, and John, and the Father to go in. All right, so I have the option to say came to the house from Matthew and Luke, and I have comes to the house from Mark. I'll just go with came. It's from Matthew and Luke. Majority witness. I don't think it makes much of a difference. Came. I know I'm going to say to the house from Mark only. To Matthew into the ruler's house. Mark says he comes to the house of the ruler of the synagogue. Luke says when he came into the house, he permitted no man to go in. So there's no explanation of who this house belongs to. I guess it's just inferred. I'll just keep explaining all of it. The ruler of the synagogue. That's how it's been so far. So I'll go with that. So the house is all three. Of the is Mark only. Ruler is Matthew and Mark. And of the synagogue is only Mark. So back to Mark of the synagogue. you.